The trick is stay between the walls. And we had a concrete wall at the bottom of the track. And we had a concrete wall at the top of the track which leaned the wrong way. It leaned outward instead of inward. And when you hit it, was just shoot you right over the top. You did not get a chance to relax. You were like going down the straightaway. If it's smooth and nice, you could probably relax some. But you didn't relax in our car. They always wanted to get away from you. It was pretty rough.
Miller's designs left an enduring mark on motor racing across the world. They were often ahead of developments in Europe. But Miller himself made little enough from his inventions. He had to sell his business in 1933 to Fred Offenhauser.
Poor Harry Miller. He lost practically everything. He just went bankrupt in the Depression. He was a feckless businessman. He had a bookkeeper, of course, but he had no idea of cost accounting. Beautiful front drive, $15,000. Rear drive, $10,000. Extra engine for either one, $5,000. These figures were just pulled out of the air. And he spent it as fast as he got it. He lived high. He liked the ladies. He liked fine clothes. I've never seen a picture of Miller in which he wasn't immaculately dressed. Never. Even when working on the dyno, he's got a vest and a tie. And he went through his money. He was expecting to live on royalties from designs and income from the sale of his business, but they went bust too. And times were changing. People had no patience with visionary ideas.
Indianapolis's one annual event was always marked by celebrations and showmanship. It went through good times and bad, but for 30 years, there was no car maker at the Indy to match Miller's genius for innovation. A typical car of the 30s was this Studebaker. It was one of 5 beautifully prepared models entered by the company to take advantage of new rules. These encouraged the big manufacturers to participate. They all lost to a Miller engine car. Over the years, a special kind of car evolved to race in this glamorous but internationally isolated event, cut off from the mainstream of world motor racing. It was the classic Indy Roadster. Big and robust, designed for power and endurance, it provided few comforts for the driver. Often it was built just for one race, so everything in the car was slightly offset for Indy's left-hand corners. This conventional design dominated Indy racing for years. Though little was tried to improve the aerodynamics of the bulky Roadster, there were some technical advances. The Belon Special, built by Frank Curtis, had its engine laid on its side. It won in 1957 and 58. By then, fast and reliable though they were, the Roadsters had become outdated. In 1961, American racing legend A.J. Foyt won the first of his 4 Indies in a traditional front-engine Roadster. But back in 9th position was a portent of things to come, a car whose design would finish the Roadsters as surely as the Ice Age killed the dinosaurs. The car was the revolutionary rear-engined Cooper. It was driven by Jack Brabham, who had twice carried off the Formula One World Championship in Coopers. It was dismissed at first by Speedway regulars as the funny car, but its rear-engine design soon changed the shape of Indy cars as completely as it had swept aside front-engine cars in Europe. It took a few years longer in America, and in the event, it wasn't the Cooper that did it. It was Colin Chapman who achieved the breakthrough at Indianapolis with a rear-engine Lotus specially designed for the race.
The racing genius of Europe at that time was Colin Chapman. So I invited him to come to the race in 1962 when it also happened to be my first race, and bought his ticket, and he said, sure, I'll come over. And it was right after that race that I made contacts with Ford on his behalf and our behalf, and that was the beginning. And he and I went and convinced Ford that with an engine that they could provide, that a car that he would design and build at Lotus would get the job done.
I was horrified to see the way that the design of cars had stagnated over there, insofar as they just hadn't had the spur of competition that we'd had in Europe to evolve newer and better cars. And really, I felt that all we needed to do was to take a European-style car to the state which we'd already evolved our racing car in Europe and take it to America, and it would be successful. Added to which, of course, the attitude in America was goaded us on a bit, insofar as that they felt that the only sort of racing was Indianapolis-type racing, and that all this Grand Prix racing was just fun for the boys. But when we won the race, they all started to copy this.
In 1963, in his first appearance at Indy, Jim Clark came second. He went on to win 2 years later.
When this new blood, this new sort of approach to automobile racing arrived, with the Cooper, with Jack at first, which didn't look, unless you were very perceptive, it didn't look like a real threat. And then came the Lotus. All of a sudden, it was a revolution. And the genie had been let out of the bottle, so to speak.
The move to rear engines turned into a stampede. Unhappily, not all the new cars were properly tested, and following European practice, they were now fueled by petrol. In 1964, disaster struck on the first lap and left 2 drivers dead. Petrol was banned after this, and Indy racing returned to alcohol-based methanol, a less combustible and safer fuel. 1964 was the last time a roadster won at Indianapolis. Indy competitors now embraced the rear-engine revolution with all the fervor of converts. The Bardell Eagle shows how elegant the results could be.
When we seen the Lotus car, it was a lot further developed than Jack Brabham's, and it was very light. In fact, I heard Colin Chapman telling one of his mechanics there was some washers on the bolts. He says, I don't want them washers going for a ride, take them off. So he wanted everything light. We had learned something from Chapman. There was offset chassis and different spin combinations, suspension, roll centers. I paid a lot of attention to all that because I knew it was the coming thing.
The rear-engine revolution from Britain finished the all-American roadster and almost put an end to the building of Indy cars in America. Nowadays, they are mostly made in Britain. In the 1984 race, 29 of the 33 starters were designed and built by the British firm March. The most successful team at Indianapolis is Penske. They've won the 500 8 times in 2 decades. For a while, like most contestants, they used March cars, but now they build their own here at their factory in Poole, in the south of England. These days, an Indy car employs the latest technology. It incorporates design innovations like aerofoils and ground effects. It has a turbocharged engine, banned now in Formula One. Much of the car is built of space-age carbon fiber. This is the main structure of the car, lighter but stronger than steel, onto which the suspension and engine are bolted. The modern Indy car has a lot in common with those built for Formula One, but there are important differences to suit the demands of the speedway.
Well, the cars are considerably heavier than a Formula One car. The car is much bigger. It weighs 450 pounds more than a Formula One car. The fuel tank of an Indy car weighs 47 pounds, and it's built to a American military helicopter specification. So the whole car is considerably stronger. The driver's best protected.
Indianapolis offers its own particular kind of dangers.
The accidents, when they do happen, are extremely violent. One is racing within the confines of a solid concrete wall, not an Armco barrier or rubber tires or anything like that. And with speeds of up to 235 miles an hour, a crash under those circumstances has the violence of an aircraft accident.